Hello, guys. This is Alex here from Van Ganta House German Shepherds. Today, I want to bridge a gap that I see constantly in the working dog world. Some people understand training, some people understand breeding, very few people understand both. And then, when you don't understand both, you're creating problems. The reality is that most German Shepherds wind up in pet homes, not in working homes. If you breed for the extreme, you will have either dogs returned to you or dogs that wind up in animal shelters. That's why we're going to discuss some myths that you see from some popular YouTubers, and I want to dispel some myths. Uh, you get people that buy dogs they can't handle, and you get breeders that produce dogs that look impressive on video but are actually unstable in real life. So I want to talk about what makes a German Shepherd truly valuable as a working dog and why a hard dog isn't always a good dog. The marketing myth versus the reality. DDR dogs, Czech dogs, real dogs, killer dogs, civil drive, not sleeve junkies, not sport dogs. Look, there are historical differences between certain lines in certain areas of the world that produce certain dogs of a certain type. But that story sells puppies. It doesn't build good breeding programs. Because the real world doesn't care about what the dog's paperwork says. The real world cares about what the dog does when the pressure comes. Here's the key idea: training proves the individual dog, but the breeding predicts the next generation. That's not the same thing. A great trainer can make one talented dog and make it look like a monster. A great breeder has to produce dogs that are stable, predictable, and usable, not once, but repeatedly. And this is where people confuse things. A dog can look amazing in one clip on one day with one handler on one field, but can still be a genetic dead end. And the other side, a breeder can produce dogs from pedigrees all day long based on understanding what those pedigrees carry. But the complete dog is the dog that has both a great pedigree and great in real life. You need to understand both breeding and training. Training proves breeding, but there's not all that there is to breeding. In other words, a dog can be bred for the sport of Schutzhund, but he's so hot that the average family can't handle him. On the other hand, you can have a dog which is a couch potato that has no working ability at all. So you can't breed for one extreme or for the other. So where do we find the golden middle? Well, historically, East German and Czech dogs existed behind the Iron Curtain. There were extreme differences in selection pressure. Some lines to be heavier in defense, more suspicious, and more environmentally tough. But the internet takes history and turns it into fantasy. If you buy a dog with DDR or Czech stamped on it, you automatically get a warrior, a military grade dog. That's simply not true. The real world doesn't care about story. The real world cares about the dog does when pressure comes. So the real world predicts the dog's behavior, not the pedigree, although the pulls in the pedigree are all in the same direction. The breeding predicts the next generations. All the pulls are in the same direction. A great trainer can take one talented dog and make it look like a monster. A great breeder has to produce dogs that are stable, predictable, and usable, not once, but repeatedly. That is why breeding best to best is often a trap. People think breeding is simple. Take the best male, take the best female, boom, perfect puppies. But that's not true. Breeding is a gamble. Breeding is probability. Breeding is genetics. Breeding is selecting traits across generations. If you don't understand that, you can't produce that are dogs that are a nightmare for normal homes and then blame the buyer when they get it wrong. What the average person needs are what they don't need. Most people do not need that as a dog that is sharp for no reason. Most people do not need a dog that is suspicious of everything. Most people do not need a dog that wants to light up the entire neighborhood. They need a dog that is stable, clear headed, environmentally sound, social enough to live in the real world, and still capable of protection when it truly matters. A real working dog is not a cartoon. A real working dog is a controllable animal that can switch gears. Because the biggest failure I see is this: people think that reactivity is power. People think nervousness is seriousness. No, it's not true. People think aggression is courage. That's not true either. What civil drive is hype. Let's talk about that a little bit. Civil work is real dog. An engage can engage without equipment. A dog can engage a threat for real. But here's the part that people don't like hearing. A dog that is civil without stability is not impressive. It is dangerous. A dog that is suspicious and defensive but lacks nerve strength, you don't have a warrior. You have a dog that might bite the wrong person at the wrong time for the wrong reason. And a lot of hard dog marketing actually selling instability as a feature. You'll see online ads for the dog is fantastic. The dog is screaming. The dog is losing its mind. The handler is barely holding on. And the people say, wow, that dog is a beast. No, that dog is a liability. A truly strong dog has control on its head. It has clarity. It has recoverability. It doesn't redirect against its handler and can take pressure without redirecting on its handler. It can take pressure and stay in the fight without losing its brain. That is the dog you want. Now let's talk about the argument that sport dogs are not real dogs. This is an outdated argument. Let's address the argument. Sport dogs aren't real. They're just sleeve junkies. They only bite equipment. Listen, the sleeve is a training tool. It's not a reason the dog bites. Sport dogs and personal protection dogs come from the same general gene pool of working uh, German Shepherd blood, German blood usually. They're not different species. They're not different breeds. They're still German Shepherds. So the truth is, most criminals don't walk up into your house wearing a bite suit or a bite sleeve anyhow. So the question is, doesn't the dog just bite the sleeve? No, the real question is, does the dog have nerve? Does the dog have stability? Does the dog have aggression under control? Does the dog have the genetic to reproduce those traits consistently? Because if the dog is a strong sport dog with real nerves and real genetics, that's not a joke dog. That's a serious dog. And the fact is, most criminals have never encountered a Schutzhund-3 trained dog. Believe me, if a real criminal encounters a bite trained dog, they're not going to have a nice time. So don't get it backwards. So, this is what I want to bring in a deeper concept. Breeding working dogs is both an art and a science. The art is reading dogs, temperament, nerve, clarity, drives, recoverability, thresholds. You can't fake that. You either see it or you don't. That, but the science is genetics. When people ignore the science side, they breed based on vibes. They breed on famous names. They breed look stuff. They breed on I like that dog. Then they're shocked when the litter is inconsistent. A breeder isn't just producing one dog. A breeder is shaping a population. That's where population genetics comes in, not individual genetics. That's where terms matter. The founder effect. The founder effect is when you start with a limited number of dogs and those dogs shape everything that comes later. If you start off with unstable dogs, you don't train that out. You just spread it. If you start off with stable dogs, you can build something real. Gene flow. Gene flow is the movement of genetics into and out of the population. Basically, what you bring by outcrossing or importing. If you bring in bad traits, you've imported problems. If you bring in good traits, you have good problem. You have good genetics, but only if you select carefully. Genetic drift. Genetic drift is what happens when traits change over time due to random chance, small population size, or careless selection. And that is why some lines lose what they used to be, not because of conspiracy, but because selection has changed. Now, DDR dogs and Czech dogs, what was real, what's changed, and what's left? Let's get back to reality. Back then, you had closed borders, you had state influenced breeding programs, you had restricted breeding populations, and you had strong selection pressure for military purposes. That's why they needed dogs that could be taken out of a kennel and worked by soldiers or police. That means the dog could not be handler soft, the dog could not be fragile, the dog had to function under pressure, the dog had to work for multiple handlers and work without first warming up to the dog. Could just switch handlers and still work. The dog had to be sound enough to last, and that is the real history. But those systems are gone. East Germany doesn't exist. The old Czech lines don't exist. They're heavily mixed now with West German working lines. The old selection pressure doesn't exist. The gene pools are very heavily mixed once the Berlin Wall fell. So the Czech programs imported dogs have very heavily crossed lines with West German working lines. People are now breeding for a common purpose, which is success in the sport of IGP. So today, DDR means one of two things. One, there's historical background that influenced the dogs, and they may have a similar phenotype to what the dogs look like. Or two, it's a marketing label used to sell puppies to make them sound tough. It's as if it's basically some kind of a mystique, as if it's something special. Don't fall for the bull and for the nonsense. Be careful. So, what a serious breeder should actually be producing, a serious breeder should be producing dogs that meet a real need, a niche. For the most part, that niche is a family companion guardian, not a vicious, not an unstable dog, not a dog that bites out of fear, not a dog that redirects on family members, not a dog that is so sharp you can't handle it outside, a dog that is safe, stable, clear, and when the pressure comes, the dog is formidable. That's the balance. And that balance doesn't come from hype. That balance comes from selection, testing, and understanding genetics. So the point of this video is simple. If you only understand training, you might build a great dog sometimes, but you can still breed a mess. If you only understand pedigrees, you might talk a great game, but you can't produce dogs that actually work. To create a real working dog, you need both. You need real training and real testing, and real breeding knowledge grounded in science. Because the German Shepherd is not supposed to be a neurotic liability, it's not supposed to be a fragile sport only animal either. It's supposed to be stable, capable, intelligent working dog. And if you agree with that, subscribe to this channel. And in the comments, tell me what you want next. Do you want a video on civil drive versus prey drive? Do you want a video how to evaluate nerve strength in puppies? Or what makes a dog safe for real world protection work? All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. This is Alex from Van Ganta House German Shepherds.